I really wasn't too hot on the idea of doing New York Groove. That came from Eddie Kramer, and you know, who knew it was going to be my biggest hit? Likewise, you know, on this new album, Space Invader, you know, the record company came up with the idea for me to do the Joker. I didn't think it was heavy enough, you know, compared to the rest of the songs on the record, you know, but I did the best I could. You know, I layered a lot of guitars on that track. You know, did a ripping solo, and I layered the choruses, so I'm real happy with the end result, though, on my version. It's not really something I think I would write, but, you know, I mean, the opening line, you can't escape that, you know, I am the space cowboy, I mean, let's face it. Yeah, I don't remember ever bumping into Steve on the road over the years, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen, you know, there's a lot of years that went by that, you know, my memory's could have been better. I used to rattle off jokes, I used to get them from my bartenders, you know, but now that I've been sober almost 8 years, I'm completely exhausted. I used to rattle off 50 jokes in one, you know, one after the other, repetition. Why did the monkey fall out of the tree? Because it was dead. There was one point in my life where I wanted to be a stand-up comedian, and that still could happen. I'm slowly getting back into that mindset, but, you know, it takes a while. We just lost a great one, you know, Robin Williams, and, you know, I knew Robin, you know, we partied a few times, and that was a huge, huge blow. I mean, you know, the comedic world just got a huge loss. I mean, he was brilliant. There was only one Robin Williams. Brilliant. You know, my heart goes out to his wife and family, you know. Terrible. Everybody goes through depression, and, you know, the roller coaster ride of the entertainment business, you know, just magnifies it sometimes. And I remember once I was in Louisiana, I even talk about it in my book, No Regrets, where, you know, I was thinking about suicide, you know, and I never followed through with it, but the pressures of this business can get to you, you know, and some people don't make it through that, you know, that bad night. We've lost so many people to depression, drugs, and alcohol, and everything that goes along with it, you know. You don't have to suffer with that. There's medication you can take, and everybody should be cognizant of that. I do at least 3 or 4, you know, signings, you know, book signings and stuff, you know, around the country, and invariably what's happened to me as of late is kids will come up to me and, you know, I'll give them the autograph and they'll whisper in my ear and they'll go, Ace, you know, I got 6 months sober, or I got 9 months sober, or I got a year under my belt, and they say, it's because of you, buddy. We saw that you could do it, and, you know, you gave us the, you know, encouragement to, you know, follow through with it. You know, that just makes my week. Conversely, on the other side of the coin, years ago, I used to get these loaded characters, you know, hey, Ace, I wrecked my car too. The whole thing has gone 360, you know, and it's a good feeling. The first year is real tough, and every year after that gets easier. I don't even get urges anymore, and, you know, it's the furthest thing from my mind, but, you know, it took a long time to get to this place. You know, I still go to meetings, I still stay connected, I stay away from people that get high because I don't want to be around it. That's how I live my life today, and I'm much happier for it. We're only as sick as our secrets. So, I mean, the fact that I talk about, you know, the pitfalls of the business and what happened to me, that's what keeps me well. You know, by helping other people and moving on in a positive direction. I try not to dwell on the past. I try to stay in the now and look towards the future. What bothers me is being around drunk people, because that brings back bad memories. You know, and I can't tolerate that. And, you know, it's when I get around drunk people, I say to myself, here's my karma. I used to be drunk all the time around Paul and Gene, and they used to get pissed off, and now it's coming back to me. But, you know, I try to tolerate it, but I can't tolerate it for very long. Anything's possible. See, I'm the kind of guy that says never say never. You know, people say, would you ever rejoin KISS? I said, you know, under the right conditions, if they wrote a big enough check, sure, why not, you know? Give the fans a thrill. That would probably make history. I'd be the only rock star in history to quit and rejoin a group 3 times. You know, the press makes it out like we hate each other, and that's a crock, you know. I called Gene, you know, while I was mixing this last record, while I was driving up to LA. We chatted for about a half an hour. He starts talking about when we used to drive around, you know, the South in a station wagon with our road manager, Sean Delaney. It's like we never missed a beat, you know. I mean, I've known those guys for over 40 years, so I mean, you know, it's really not as bad as you think, folks. You know what it is? It's like right now the fans are upset with Paul and Gene because they got 2 guys dressed up in my makeup and Peter's makeup. The stuff that we created, you know. I did the logo, and it's just like the fans are rooting for me. And that's great, and it feels great, but, you know, there's still, you know, that, you know, there's some uneasiness there. But that night everybody was on their best behavior, and it was a great night, you know. I just regret that we didn't perform, you know. I was up for it, Peter was up for it. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame requested it, and at the last minute, Paul and Gene shot it down. After 40 years, they couldn't give the fans 15 minutes. What is wrong with you guys? Those guys used to badmouth me all the time, calling me a drunk and a drug addict. They can't do that anymore. Paul's calling me a racist now. I mean, get off it, you know? He's trying to sell a book, you know? He's calling me, you know, all sorts of ridiculous things, you know, just trying to grab headlines. And, you know, it's really a sad attempt to, you know, discredit me because the world loves me. The one and only Space Ace. He made a comment that I was anti-Semitic. Doesn't he know that my fiance is Jewish? Is he out of his mind? You know, the biggest problem today is everybody is just too worried about PC. You know, everybody should just let their hair down and relax, you know? Remember shows like Maude and, you know, Archie's Place and All in the Family? I mean, those were funny shows. I've been recently watching those on Amazon, and I'm telling you, they're killing me. They say stuff in those shows that you'd never hear today on television. Everybody's so uptight these days, you know? People are getting fired because they make a racial slur. I mean, come on. Everybody uses racial slurs from time to time to a limited degree, but I mean, you know, that doesn't mean you're a racist just because you use a word now and then. People say to me, you know, all this stuff and all the negative stuff those guys say about you. I go, I let it roll off my back because, you know, anything you hold on to is going to make you sick. That's how people get cancer, you know? You know, you internalize negative energy, it's going to kill you. You got to let that stuff roll off your back and go on with your life. Resentments are really a The next record is going to be pretty much exclusively covers and remakes. What's a remake? A remake is a remake of a song that I've already recorded. A cover is a cover of a cover song. I had to explain it to somebody the other day. Probably the end of next year, early following year, who knows. But right now I want to stay focused on Space Invader. Mike McCready's going to be on it. I've already asked Slash. You know, I'm going to probably get Leah Ford, who's a good friend. The list is endless, you know. I could get 20 guests, but, you know, we'll see who's available and whose schedules we can coordinate to get them on the record. Well, I remember when I saw The Who and the Cream. They were opening up for Mitch Wright and the Detroit Wheels at a Murray the K show. And I talk about this in my book. They blew me away, but I also remember saying, a little voice in the back of my head saying, they're great, but, you know, I remember, you know, my conscience saying to me, hey, you can do that too. And I had a feeling, and I always knew from the time I was about 15 to 16 that I was going to be a rock star. And people say, well, what would happen if you never joined KISS? And I said, if I didn't join KISS, I would have joined somebody else. You know, look at what I've done on my own as a solo artist, you know. It would have happened one way or the other.